So if, as they say, if someone is qualified and has all the qualifications and he or she employs his friends and all the friends are qualified and they can bring services to the people, would that be a problem? Because some people will say it's not so much about that they are your relatives or your friends. The issue is when you employ people who are close to you, you're not always critical of them. You don't do your due diligence because, as you said, they can complain, why are you doing this and I'm your friend? So what if there's a process in which you can run them through, that you employ them, they're your friends or your daughters, but they're all qualified? Would that be a problem?
Well, it depends. For example, the appointment of Adut Salva Kiir is a case example that brought internet on fire. It set the internet on fire. And we have young people who really wanted to see somebody like Adut to bring their dream up. And they know she's educated. Adut is educated, qualified, and have run an organization, as many have said. But she's the daughter of the president. When I come into that place of Adut, I have my background in human resources, hiring and firing. The question here is, we don't know the job description of Adut. The father appointed her as a special envoy to a special program. What is that special program? As a HR person, I want to know what is it so that I can put that in a job description whether Adut is qualified to lead that program. But by leaving it general like that, we have no idea what Adut is going to lead.
Thank you, Rose, for being a part of Purte TV. I really appreciate you being here. It's my hope that the viewers will benefit from what you will have to share.
Thank you for bringing me over here and share my view with our people. I appreciate.
Today we are talking about nepotism and what it means within the South Sudanese political system today and in history. I want us to begin by talking about what is nepotism and whether it is wrong in itself. Or whether it is something that can be mitigated by someone being qualified to do the job. So in your view, what is nepotism?
Well, from what I gathered, nepotism is, when you hire your, it's along the bloodline. Like you hire your brother, your relatives, or those that It doesn't have to be bloodline only, but the inner circle of those and you bring them into work, especially within the government. That is where the question later comes in. It's like favoritism. It's a favoritism based on family, relatives, or close associate. That's how I can say it.
But some people will say, and in Canada, nepotism is not illegal. The same thing in the US and many countries, it's not illegal. It is just a question of ethics. So it's not advised to hire people who are your close friends or relatives. So do you think we can say that as long as someone is qualified, there's nothing wrong with nepotism?
That, it depends. For example, you mentioned Canada. Canada has a strong law compared to us South Sudanese who are just like emerging from like 5 decades of war. And we want to make our country better. We have not yet been solid like Canadian. Yes, it is true. It is not nepotism. It has to do with the moral and ethics. It's not a crime. If somebody can do the job, yes, they can deliver the job. But what I am against is because we have seen nepotism not only in our country that play a role in our previous, regional government leading into what they call kokora, even though the kokora was something that was meant to be in a good way, like a redivision, but the outcome of it was not very good because many people lost their lives. And this is because when nepotism was going on, people complained to the government, to the regional government, but it all went to the deaf ear. Nobody paid attention on it. You find somebody who's a minister in the government and you come down all the way to what they call Morosula. They are all from either the same circle or the same tribe. So there is also difference between tribalism and nepotism, but they all intertwine somehow in the middle, because you can favor your tribes, you can favor your clan, and yet you cannot run the government that way. It's not fair for other tribes who also contributed not to contribute to building of the nation. Because when you hire somebody that and nepotism leads to a lot of things. It leads to corruption, meaning there is no check and balance when you are in that situation. When you bring check and balance, the family will gang against you. You're gonna be in jail. We have seen it over and over in different countries, and how that country fall. Instead of moving forward, they fail the nation. And we don't want South Sudan to fail. The leadership of South Sudan to fail us.
So if, as they say, if someone is qualified and has all the qualifications, and he or she employs his friends and all the friends are qualified and they can bring services to the people, would that be a problem? Because some people will say it's not so much about that they are your relatives or your friends. The issue is when you employ people who are close to you, you're not always critical of them. You don't do your due diligence, because, as you said, they can complain, why are you doing this and I'm your friend? So what if there's a process in which you can run them through, that you employ them, they're your friends or your daughters, but they're all qualified? Would that be a problem?
Well, it depends. For example, the appointment of Adut Salva Kiir is a case example that brought internet on fire. It set the internet on fire. And we have young people who really wanted to see somebody like Adut to bring their dream up. And they know she's educated. Adut is educated, qualified, and have run an organization, as many have said. But she's the daughter of the president. When I come into that place of Adut, I have my background in human resources, hiring and firing. The question here is, we don't know the job description of Adut. The father appointed her as a special envoy to a special program. What is that special program? As a HR person, I want to know what is it, so that I can put that in a job description, whether Adut is qualified to lead that program. But by leaving it general like that, we have no idea what Adut is going to lead. Some people saying that there are things that Salva, the president has not accomplished, and Adut is going to mend that. Adut is a South Sudanese as an individual, like any other South Sudanese. She can lead or she can work, but she cannot work because of her father, because she has her own talent, she has her own education, and she qualified as a South Sudanese without connection to having to be through the father, through the bloodline. And for me, we have seen a lot of countries in Africa who have used nepotism, and they went all down the line. Mobutu Sese Seko did that. And then the end result is corruption, mismanaging the resources of the country that people should be distributed to everybody, every child in Congo. And the end result of that is, after today, Congo is not stable. Is that what we want to in our country? No, we don't. If we can avoid it, let's avoid it now. Adut can serve the country on her own capacity, but not through the bloodline. That is wrong. It's setting example. In that same background, whether in a corporation or non-profit organization or in the government, the conflict of interest comes in, and I would not hire somebody like that, because there is a law that is set already there. You cannot hire someone like in Canada. When you ask question that nepotism in Canada is not illegal, and it is true. Similar probably in United States as well. It's not illegal. It's not a crime. But the question is, the conflict of interest is ethically is not right. Morally is not right either. And there are qualified people that you can get them from different bloodlines, and then you end up having the bloodlines, and we're not going to have check and balance in these regards. Should anything happen that regards to finances or it leads to corruption, it erodes trust from the public and it collapses the nation. And we don't want to encourage that in South Sudan.
So, do you think there's a difference in terms of the corporate world and government? Are there exceptions? Can you make an exception to say, okay, someone may say you are an HR expert, that's what you would do in a corporate setting. But this is politics where sometimes it's not about who is qualified because HR people prioritize being qualified. But in politics, sometimes it's about trust more than qualification. Would that apply?
I wouldn't. It does apply, literally, but of course, you find some people who would not even obey the rules because they want to bring their own people. But if they have moral obligation to that nation that they serve as leaders, they must think about it. They must think that they are not serving their family, they are serving the nation. In the process of serving the nation, yes, they serve their family, but bringing family into something like this is not. Yes, Adut herself, um, uh, um, um, she has the qualification, she can do the job. And I go back to what we were recording before, the HR person. I have no idea the job description that the president gave to Adut. The job description is saying Adut is an envoy for a special program. And the question that comes as a human resources is, what is that special background? A special envoy is, what is he going to serve as an envoy, number one? And what is the job description of Adut in that regard? And when we know the job description, then we find out whether Adut is qualified or not to serve. And if she's not qualified, rather gets somebody else to do the job. So nepotism erode trust. And when people don't trust you, that is very dangerous for a nation that we are just building from scratch. We need to set good example. Excuse me, I brought example of Butu Sese Seko, who brought all his family. And the end result, Congo has never been the same until the day of today because of nepotism. In theory, yes, if someone has the expertise, leadership, capacity, and independent mind like Adut, their contribution could outweigh the stigma of nepotism. That is true. But in practice, especially in a fragile nation like ours, I wouldn't go for that because it weakens the institution that we are trying to build from scratch. And we don't want to have our children suffer and our next generation suffer. We need to set up an example that is morally and ethically right for this nation.
I really like what you said about eroding trust in the people. And you've also seen not just the president, you've also seen others having their daughters employed. Kuala Manyang, whose daughter is a minister, you have Awena Kud, daughters also employed. You also have the president's family. Some of them are ambassadors. Mm-hmm. So if that is being done, and we say, they are qualified, then we also have to think, how about other people? Did we think about other people? The sons or daughters of the average people who may be more qualified than them. Mm-hmm. What will they think?
And that's exactly what I wrote in one of the articles. I said it was actually before Adut was elected, somebody was recommending that Adut should serve and help the father, legacy and all that. I was like, the legacy of Adut is entirely on Adut. The legacy of Mr. President is entirely on him. If he failed the nation in certain part, Adut cannot be the one mending that. And bringing Adut is like creating a dynasty, and we are not the dynasty. And coming from Nilotic tribe, my grandmother used to say that we are not kings and queens. The reason is we cannot handle it. We cannot handle to be king and queens because we come right away and get rid of those and then get another new leader to come in. And many Nilots are like that, exception of maybe the Cholo kingdom that resisted after now. But many kingdoms that we had, the Kush kingdom and all that, we got rid of them because of the same thing of when people don't trust your leadership, nobody's going to put up with that, So good thing you brought also the example of Paul Manyang's daughter. Yes, she's qualified, but she's not appointed by the father, and she's not even serving where the father is, and she She's qualified, no problem. But we also have to have check and balance. Because if we are doing something like that, what about the daughters of Dr. John Garang? So the children of Dr. John Garang, he played a lot of role in the country as well, as others. Are we going to base on, bringing our own and then forgetting the other heroes that also devoted themselves into that country? Just because they are dead, we can no longer remember them. So those are the things that come into public mind in terms of nepotism. Nepotism is not a good thing. It brings resentment. And when people develop resentment to that government, then things not going to go right. And we want to avoid that at all costs. We have leaders in other countries that the next prime minister or president comes in will do revenge. And we don't want that to happen in our nation. We want to prove that our nation, we did not fight for nothing. We did not fight in vain. We got our nation. We fought for many years. And we are proud nation. At least we are not under the yoke of Khartoum or anything. They despise us. But look at what is happening in Sudan. We don't want to prove them right. We want to be better and give example to them. Stay brothers and sisters, but still give good example to them. Another case example of nepotism is during the COVID time when the vice president, Dr. Riek Machar, of all his qualification, stooped down to bring in allegedly an in-laws who is a certified nurse assistant, not even a registered nurse, to lead the Ministry of Health. At a crisis where all other nations are bringing their scientists, their well expertise, which South Sudan don't lack. We are blessed. The war is a curse, but it's also a blessing because many who went out to different countries were able to get education compared to the first group that few were educated. But in the SPLM, after the SPLM movement, many are educated more than the Anyanya one. And we have scientists, have epidemiologists. We have all those. And in a crisis, health crisis like that, this was a worldwide. And you bring somebody who have no education just because this person is related to you, and you entrust that person with responsibility of millions of South Sudanese. That is very dangerous. And we lost people along the line. We could have saved them. We lost people. So even though not many died compared to other nations, we still lost life. One single life loss is a big loss to our nation. So we should stay away from nepotism. This is another case example of nepotism bringing somebody who's not qualified leading the nation.
Do you think we learned something from that? Because COVID-19 was really a deadly virus. And I think you're right, because you need your best minds during the time of crisis. And Dr. Riek Machar is someone who is qualified, and he knows the value of having qualified people. And this is what happens. I'm not really sure the circumstance around, but many people say, that she was an in-law. And if that is why she was employed, that goes to what we're saying. It's very dangerous.
But even so, let's say that she's not even an in-law. That individual did not have any qualification to lead the nation. While many were looking for the scientists, those who are expertise in those fields, and they are there. It's not that they are not available. And among the Nuer, I believe they have many doctors there if he wants to bring a Nuer. But stooping low into that was not. I criticize it, and I will stand with it. It wasn't a good thing.
So I wanted to catch what you said earlier about Nilotic before I ask the question. Because you and I come from Nilotic tribes, and we don't have the concept of a centralized state, like a kingdom where the Azande and the Cholo have a kingdom. We come from a very culturally and socially democratic societies. We don't have one person to come and say they are the best to lead everyone. No, we have chiefs, yes, but the chiefs also have to listen to the people.
To the people.
We are inherently democratic. And this is something colonial anthropologists and also colonialists realized. When they didn't see kingdoms like the Cholo and also the Zandi, they thought we were just, barbaric people who don't know concept of law. But then when they studied, they realized we have very strong ethical codes that govern everything we do.
Yes.
And we don't like one person to come and say, I know everything and I will tell you what to do. We don't like that.
No.
So this is something that many people don't realize in South Sudan. South Sudanese are like that. Even the Cholo Kingdom or the Zande Kingdom, they still have some democratic elements to it because the king is not absolute. He has a
That's
council of people advising him. So thank you for bringing that one up. They call us, anthropologists call us acephalus because there's no head, headless societies. That's what they call us, acephalus societies. So
But
thank
we
you
do
for,
have rainmakers. We do have
yes.
environmentalists, which are like they deal with environment or the land. We have rainmakers. All those. We have medicine men, whatever you call it.
Mhm.
But they all have their duties based on where they are. And of course, if they don't, especially the people chief or whatever you call it, they don't do well. They are voted out by the community.
Mhm. And these people are qualified. So no one can come up and say, I'm a rainmaker. You have to prove yourself. You're a medicine man. You have to prove yourself. So if people in the community know so and so is a medicine man, they've been tested.
They are
They
tested,
are
yes.
qualified. If his son, because there was some sort of apprenticeship, if his son becomes the next medicine man after he passes, people also know he is a son of this medicine man. He's
Yeah,
qualified.
yeah.
So,
And we
yeah.
also have ethicals rule in those communities. For example, you have a medicine man, which they normally give it freely. Some
Mhm.
people give little token as an appreciation and they take it, but they don't sell it. When they come to commercialize it, people don't like it. Similar to environmentalists, they protect those fruits like lulu or whatever. You can't go just and cut it for the sake of cutting the tree. It's not acceptable. Those are ethics that guide the community. The people person, the chief, will be respected by the people, but if they don't perform their duty well, they are out. They were the first to go out, actually, compared to medicine men or maybe rainmakers, because rainmakers, they come with the hierarchy. But when it comes to like the people chief, they are gone. Nobody cares. They can bring somebody. If those children are qualified, yes, they will do it. But people don't entertain nonsense in those communities, in many of our communities, actually.
Okay,
So if
so
we have those ethics that guide us in our community, why can't we apply it in a nation building, which actually is part of the democratic system?
and that's one of the challenges because we are stuck between the Western way of governing and also our traditional ways. We are not using both appropriately. So if we
So
were to use the way we were governing ourselves traditionally, then I think we would be better than what is happening today.
yeah, and that is very important important things that you also mentioned, because the Western, they put everything in written and people follow those guidelines. But what is going on right now, we don't even want to put a lot of things in writing. We have been since 2011, we don't even have a constitution that guides us properly. Every time there is war, there is fight and set us back and back. So basically you feel like you are hostage in your own country. By this time, 14 years later, we would have done better. We have all the resources in our country that we need to use to utilize it to build this nation. But it seems like our leadership prefer other foreign nations than our own, which is very sad.
Okay,
They are
so
quick to go to Kenya, quick to send their kids to Kenya, quick to go to have medical treatment in India. They also build their own. Build yours, even if it's one only. Build it and then move to the next one. No, we are not against the government, but we are against their inability to deliver service to people. If I went last year for a short visit in South Sudan, I did see development, mostly hotel and other things. Things are going on, yes. But when I looked at it, Juba is not only Mudiria. I would actually request Mr. President to get out, or even the daughter Adut to get out and come to the street around Juba University and Custom and go to Konyo Konyo, Malekia, and see how many kids, and I want her to interview those children. How many kids? I was crying. It's sad to see it. We had a Karama, funeral or whatever. These kids came in, they want food, but because people always kick them out, they chase them away, they were scared. They were coming to steal the food. That is not how South Sudanese culture has been. Where did we get this from? We can't deliver service to our people. I grew up in Sudan. I was young. I've never seen a child begging where the neighbor would not give anything to them. Never seen that. What I seen, I just appeal to the government of South Sudan, come from your comfort zone. Just come on the street and see those kids. I talked to them. They were all scared, but at the same time, they didn't know what to do. They were hyper. I would calm my voice to talk to them and said, you don't have to steal. We have plenty of food. I took them and gave them food. And one came and said, what is she doing? What is she saying? He's very defensive. And I can see why, because they are living on the street. They defend themselves. They are there to protect themselves. But I just want the service that Adut is doing for her philanthropies or whatever you call it, should extend it to those street kids. Because those kids, I talked to them, I said, among you, one of you can become even president, will be like Salva Kiir. You never know what the circumstance is, what God can give the destiny, can destine one of them to become a leader. But we need to do something as South Sudanese.
Okay, so I like how you connected it to Adut. And going back to the question I wanted to ask before we talked about the Nilotic, social democracy. If Adut, for example, now she's been employed, so do you think we can say she got the position more because of being the daughter of the president, not because of her qualifications? Because many people will bring up qualifications. They will also bring in Angelina Tang, Dr. Riek Machar's wife, who he employed as the Minister of, I think, Interior and then Defense. So people say, okay, look, she's qualified, but she's also the wife of the chairman of the party. So that's also nepotism.
It is.
But can we say that even if Adut is qualified, she wasn't employed because she's qualified? That is not the reason why she was put in that position. The president was not saying, or people around him were not saying, okay, let us look for the most qualified person. No, it's because she is the daughter of the president, and that's where the problem is.
And that's what we are trying to fix it in our own way, even if we can't fix it by pointing it out in a makeable way to president that is wrong. Adut can maybe even overqualified for that position that she's given. But Adut, like any other daughter of South Sudanese, can do it on their own, but not through the father, through the bloodlines. And like we said, it's not a crime, but it's not also ethically and moral right to do such things. And we have moral obligation to serve our nation. Our leaders have moral obligation to serve. And going back to Nilotics, we are good people. Even the Bible said it. I love reading my Bible, and I feel proud when I always see, God is pleased with our people. Them tall, dark, smooth skin. They will bring sacrifices to Jerusalem. Those who are in the Old Testament, the most fearful people on earth. When there is issues, Israel turn to us for help. That is who we are. We have ethics. We have moral obligation to serve our people and to serve the world. And I go back. Ethically, we have to, and morally, we have to serve our nation. We have to serve the people. We have to serve us.
Should she have said no to the position?
Well, given, I don't even think Adut is the first person, given what I'm seeing online. There were quite a bit of the children that were appointed and given position by the president himself. But Adut come in the more of the upper rights, more direct with the father. And that is where, I don't know if she should have said no, but she can say no to the father, of course. She can say no. But she's also going to be tested. Time will tell, I'm not saying that she's not going to deliver. Our eyes is all on her. She began doing the right things by consulting with all these elderly people and all that. Is that going to be the end result of it? Because we need more than that.
Yeah, she
And
said.
she, in her speech, actually, I like it. When she delivered this speech, she said, I don't want people to clap. I want them to clap when I build a hospital, I deliver or something. And that's what we're waiting for. But like I said, people should not think of it that she's amending what the father did not accomplish. It is going to be on Adut herself.
I think you said something that maybe many people miss. You said earlier that the father has his own legacy. Adut has her own legacy. So if she fails or she succeeds, we cannot just say it's the legacy of the father. She also has her own legacy to protect too.
Right.
Yeah. So that's something that many people are trying to miss.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So and then we'll leave it at that. But I wanted to say something before we go to nepotism, tribalism, and Kokra. I want us to go into that. But I wanted you to weigh in on something Atanyawak said. He said it in the Jiang language, and you may have heard the conversation where he used the term Wunawing, the father of the cow. He used that analogy. And many people were not pleased. And I think he meant it in a different way. He meant this is her father, and many people around the president would not see the legacy of the father, the well-being of the father, the way she would see it. So that's what he was trying to convey. But I think the analogy did not please many people. Yes, because people interpret as saying the family owns the presidency and South Sudan. That's what many people got. He tried to work it, to try to explain, but it wasn't going through because people will say, when you say Wunwing, the owner of the cow, what are you trying? Is the cow the father or South Sudan? If you're talking about the father, then the father is the president. So you mean the presidency belongs to them? So, but do you think Adut has a role in terms of what we're saying? I understand you said she has her own legacy, but is it possible for her to salvage something? I know you said she's not going to do that, but do you think there's a way in which she can salvage something from the legacy of the father?
I think the other best way, if we go, traditionally, which I've seen a lot of people are getting excited about Adut as a community because they feel they can now talk to Adut to deliver the message to the father. And if he does that, maybe the father will hear that and listen. And Adut herself said that I welcome any criticisms. And I'm one of those who criticize a lot. But I don't criticize recklessly. I don't. And when I say something, I say, when I criticize Salva Kiir, not as a person, but for service that is not delivered. And I always go like, think about it. Because I know our message are read by the people down there. And it's not that because I'm afraid to say it, but when I'm trained as an activist, I still have to respect my leader, despite the things that is going on. If you have your father, you're not going to say that I don't want my father. Many kids love their father because it's natural. They love their father regardless of their things that they don't do right. Some kids are good. They come, Dad, can you not do that? And some of those kids are like me. Salva, pay attention. Things are not going right. And I will go boom, 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 boom. This is not acceptable. And then at the end, I appeal, do the right things. And that's what we need to do as a nation. We don't take arms to go and fight, but we can fight with our words, but we also have to be mindful. We cannot insult. You cannot go to somebody else's house, insult them and ask them for salt or ask them for help. You can't do that. And so Salva still have opportunity to do the right things. Despite everything that happened, if it does one right things, people will still come up and, praise him for it. We rally behind him. We were so proud of him when he delivered us through the death of Dr. Jangar and to bring us to independence. We fought together. We rallied behind him so that our nation, so that we have a country to call home. When I came to Canada, Canada was my first country that, despite that I was born in my country, never had a place that I call home. I'm always a stranger in my home country because of the oppression of the Arabs, refugee, but I came and I voted for the first time. I want to vote again to the next leader that is coming after Salva Kiir during the next election. I want to vote, not just end up with the referendum voting. So those are the legacy that need to be passed down to the rest. No leader can do everything perfect. We understand that. But when things are going bad, listen to the cry of the people. But Adut cannot fix it for him. Adut can carry her own cross, but she can be a link, to deliver the service to the father that I got this information is not right. She can do that, and nothing wrong with that.
I was talking to someone recently, someone who talked to the cousin. Thiek is the president's nephew.
Nephew.
So, and he was saying that the family is actually frustrated with people around the president. So he was telling Adut now try to give president access to the people. So it's not just the South Sudanese who are frustrated. The family themselves feel like there is a group of people around the president who control. When I interviewed a girl, he mentioned the same thing, that there's some sort of a cabal around the president controlling who he should talk to. So if a dude can do that, to open a way, as she said, for the people to have access to the president so that he can speak directly to the people and hear people's views, then that would be a good idea. Now, it's like Juba is the country. It doesn't go anywhere. So, and I agree with you. If she can do that, that would be an achievement for the president. But I agree, she's not going to fix things that have gone wrong since 2005. That's not possible.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that one up. Now, I want us to bring it to Kokra. You touched on it at the beginning. What do you think was the role of nepotism during the redivision of the South? Was it something that played a role, or is it something that came after when South Sudan was divided into three regions?
South Sudan after 1979 got regional government, regional autonomy. They're supposed to manage their own affairs. And as you can see, the arrangement, if you read it, not many, I don't know if many books are written there about the previous, things that happened during the regional government. But during those time, I was young, but people were frustrated with nepotism and tribalism. So you go to a ministry, which is similar to what we are having now. You go to ministry, you find people speak the same language. It's like I mentioned earlier, from the Morosila after the ministry. And then if somebody did something not right and you reported it, you're not going to go anywhere. And I don't know if we inherited from the Arabs, which they were doing, but we don't know if the Arabs were doing it only to the Arabs or they are doing it also based on tribes, I don't know. But many people were not happy, They are qualified, but they cannot get a job because there are gatekeepers there who would not even allow you to go up there. And you get in trouble, you're in jail, you don't have anybody to back you up, you're going to get in trouble, even in jail there, just because somebody there knows someone and, you can't get out. They don't want you, they don't want you. So people started like bringing the issue of decentralization, which is like what they call Kokora in a amicable way. Maybe this could help us so that we can develop our own, regions, because there are three regions. It all falls in a deaf ears, and as a result, and the result of the name decentralization ended up being a negative form, where people, the Equatorial, wanted their own, time to do their own things. And then Bahr el Ghazal have to go, and we used to have Bahr el Ghazal, the capital, Wow, and Upper Nile region, which is Jonglei included, the Upper Nile region, and Malakal was the capital, and Juba was the capital of Equatorial. When people, of course, when things happen like that, of course, there is fighting that happened between some few, and then the result was not good, nasty. And people who got angry turned into fighting each other and killing each other. So Equatorians lost their lives, same as like people from Upper Nile and from Bahr el Ghazal. It was not a good thing. And we don't want to talk, people don't want to talk about it. The nepotism that when I brought and I wrote it there is we don't want to go through the same thing that happened. If there is lesson that has to be learned, let's learn from what happened. Let's learn, let's understand that it was that thing that brought the name Kokora. Because Kokora was real. People lost lives from all regions. And who are the beneficiary of that? Is the Arabs. because it eroded the unity of South Sudanese. It broke us into pieces. Is that what we want to do as a nation right now? No. We are peeling. We shouldn't, When now you bring nepotism, that means you bring your clan, another clan. Before you know it, you have the same language there. I doubt if that is what is going to happen, that this person related to president, related here. If I go to Mr. President, is he going to talk to me in Arabic or in English?
Sure.
I don't know. I haven't been to his office. He probably will talk to me in Denka. I know last time I met him, he greeted me and he asked me.
Mhm.
And I responded in Acholi. I said, and Rose. Rosna, Denka and Acholi is,
Similar,
we
yeah.
really have similar, yeah. I'm responding in Acholi and he kind of got wide open. It's like, you speak Dinka? It's not. I'm responding, inga, similar. So we just have to be mindful of other tribes.
But do you think those simple things alienate people? And I think people don't pay attention to these things. If you go to an office and people greet you in a local language, that gives people an impression that those who don't speak the language are not welcome. And I don't think they pay attention to that.
Yeah, because they are used to it, they don't pay attention. They're used to it. I work with the community here in Colorado. Before we have many, we ended up having many Denka, and then we have Nuer, we have Anuak. Those are the three tribes that are a lot in Colorado here. Then we have something we used to call Kabila Mutelifin, because you have little equatorials and whatever. We actually model our organization in Colorado based on the SPLA protocol, where we call ourselves African Sudanese. So those who think that they are Arabs, they are not African, they don't belong to us tactically. So we have Nuba Mountains and all that were part of us. So as soon as we get the majority of Dinka, guess what? Everybody speak even to me in Dinka. It comes natural because that's the language they speak, and they don't speak English. So yes, people feel alienated, especially when it is a government thing. Because government things, we have already language that is there. We have English and Arabic. Yeah. People argue that, oh, those are foreign. Yes, but if the foreign language can bring us together, let it bring us together for the sake of the unity of our country. So I love culture, by the way. Nobody should get me wrong. I love my culture. I'm married to my husband, but I still maintain my strong culture. He has his own, I have mine. I don't cross the border, and I don't want him to cross the border on mine as well. So I'm a person who loves culture. So I don't have anything about Jing speaking in Jing. But when it has to do with the government institution, we have to be respectful of others as well.
We're coming towards the end. We've talked about many, many important things.
Yeah.
In terms of the future of South Sudan, there are many people calling for federalism.
Yes.
And there's some people who say it's Kokra in another name. That's what some people are saying. But
Yeah.
people are saying no, it's not the same thing. It's just this. It's another way we can use to advance what John Garang said, bringing towns to the people.
Yeah.
So instead of local people thinking about Juba all the time and MPs going, they should have the governor who they elect close to them and the commissioners. So empower local governments. And
Right.
that's the essence of federalism, so that the president doesn't have all the powers. Imagine today the president employs everyone, states, ministers, commissioners, local people. It's just not the right thing. So, but some people say, no, it's just Kokra all over again.
Yeah, because of the negativity of Kokora that people misunderstood, and nepotism breeds resentment. Resentment breeds what they said. Now we are done. We are done with this. We can't take it anymore. And then it results into the decentralization, which is a good governance system. It became connotated in a negative way. So when those who lost their relatives, they hear the word Kokora, they're not going to accept it. The first thing that comes to the mind is the negative things, the loss of the life that they have. And that's why I said life that was lost is not only on one side, it's on all the three regions. We need to come as a country. This is uncomfortable topic. I have not even mentioned it all because there are those who were already there in the government serving, and some of them are still alive. And those who have seen a raw death of their relatives are there as well. So if we just said we don't want to talk about it, we're not going to be able to resolve our issues as a nation. We need to talk about it, but we need also to forgive each other. We cannot just come and say, okay, the church people, you go and talk to the community and then forgive. Truth and reconciliation is not that. It's not easy. When you lose your loved one and somebody just said that, okay, just move on. It's not. You cannot move on until somebody said, I'm sorry. And that's the reason why when in one of my posts long time ago, I know you follow my posts sometimes, when Riek Machar came and apologized for 1991 atrocities to the Boer community, I didn't look at it as good. I criticized it. I said, no, the atrocities committed against the Boer people at that time, you cannot separate Boer from South Sudan. If we go with separation that, okay, it is committed against Boer, then we are not looking into a bigger picture. I expected him to come on a national TV. Whatever he said to the Boer community in that gathering, he should say it also. He should say it also in front of the national TV. Then I know that my leader owned what they have. This is not only, we have other leaders too that have done same thing. They can come out. This is where you see the healing begins as a nation. You know, any atrocities committed, we need to own it. We need to say we are sorry. It was during the wartime. We didn't mean it. And we are not going to repeat it. Rwanda did it. Rwanda is thriving as a nation right now. Whoever thought that the Rwanda would come together with the atrocities committed? Nobody. We can thrive together or we can perish together as a nation.
That's right.
The choice is in our hands and in our leadership.
I agree with you. Even when Riek Machar apologized, I thought it was well intentioned, but I think it was misplaced, because what he could have done is to talk to all SPLM leaders to say, all of us have committed atrocities, we've offended South Sudanese. So instead of him apologizing to one community, they could just apologize to all South Sudanese communities.
Exactly.
That would have been the right thing. The other thing is also, it may give an impression to some people that some communities are more important than others.
Exactly.
So that was why I thought it was the wrong thing. And some people don't want to talk about what you said, truth and reconciliation, because the first thing is truth. What really happened? Because you cannot just say, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? So you have to acknowledge, so the other person knows that you know what you did, you apologize. And that's why many people are modeling this after what South Africa did. That you first confess and say, this is what I've done, and then I'm sorry for it.
Right.
So the agreement had that provision for truth and reconciliation. But we know what is happening now. No one is going to accept to...
No.
No.
We try to avoid it. I don't know if it's a culture that make us feel like that if I said it, I'm a coward. And if it is a culture, you know, we are all warriors. South African are warriors. They fought against the invasion of the colonialism. But we are also warriors. We did the same thing. But we have to look at ourselves as brothers. And another thing that I wanted to mention as we talk about nepotism and Kokora and whatever, regionalism, what we tend to see in our generation, whether we pass all those, you know, information to the next generation. I have seen a lot of negative things against Equatoria. And this is not, I'm coming in defense of Equatoria, because Equatoria can defend themselves. But I've seen like young people say, oh, we liberated you. You need to be quiet. We can do whatever we want. If we want to stay here, we'll stay here. That is something that shouldn't happen. Because thinking like that, we are passing the next to the next generation the same ideology that is keep on dividing us. I always read a lot of things in the internet, even from the young people. I read recently when there was attack by the Ugandan in Kajukeji. I look at the profile of this young man. He said that we are sick and tired. The government is doing nothing. and it seems like they're siding with the Uganda.
Mhm.
How about the Ugandan come and take Kajukaji with us, and then we become part of the district? You know what I'm saying? Do we want Sudan to be divided, South Sudan to be like that?
But they're not paying attention to
And
that.
Ugandan can take it.
Yes. In fact, they rely on Uganda to defend the government. The UPDF, without UPDF, there's no government in Juba. So yes, Uganda can take it, but
They
are they
can
paying
take
it?
us.
Yes, they can. Yes.
And it's not right. I was like, this can come true to pass if our government are not paying attention, because they are paying attention on themselves, and that's why nepotism comes in. You are paying attention in only your stomach or people that surround you. It's wrong. Look at the people as one nation. The Ugandan are encroaching to different part of the Equatoria because we bordered with them. Kenyan is doing the same thing. Those are the places with all the resources that our next generation, they're going to get mad at us. Why did you guys do that to us? Our children or their children, they're going to get mad at this generation. We need to set things right. We cannot abandon. I question myself, is it because we think that this is Equatorial? Is it because of the Kokora? That's why we don't pay attention? Or let Uganda take, let Kenyan take?
Because they don't have there's no sense of a collective conscience in South Sudan where people see themselves as one. So people who think, and I hear this a lot, even in our local areas, people say these things, we liberated this country. And when you think about the history of the liberation struggle in South Sudan, where did it begin? It took yes, it took from 1955 to around 1968. Majority of the infantry, the leadership were mostly from the Equatoria. It took until towards the middle of the 1960s and late 1960s, that's when many, Jiang and the Nuer, they started to join the liberation struggle. Now, people who are informed about history know this. Or even if they know, they just want to dismiss it and say, okay.
Dismiss, yeah.
Yes, yeah, they just want to focus on everything that was done by the SPLA as if that was the beginning of the liberation struggle. So one is it's tribalism. They know the truth, but they want to hide it because they want to advance the interests of their tribes. Some just don't know. In the local, our local songs, traditional musician would look at the liberation struggle going from William Deng and Nial to John Garang. That is it.
But if we go back also, probably there are some songs that were there actually long time ago in Anyanya 1, but they don't sing it anymore.
No. So yeah, I think there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of disabusing people with this notion that, the people from the Equatorial did not fight. I was in 1991 when the Arabs, when SPLA split, and we ran from Ethiopia. We came to our home area, and then the Arab came and went to Equatoria. Without the Equatorians and the people of Equatoria, there would be no SPLM. They fed the SPLM. They gave us a place to stay. There would be no SPLA today without the Equatoria. So the idea that just because someone did not pick up arms, did not fight, that is ridiculous. That was the heart of the SPLA with the Equatorial.
And we have a lot of people who pick up the arms to fight.
Yes.
And we just want to say because the majority versus. And if you see right now what's going on, I want you to pay attention. It is, if you see the Nuer fighting for their rights, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Fighting for their rights and for everything that happened, which is very unfortunate. But when you look into that fight in the internet, sometimes I smile. I smile because everybody, it become now like the two tribes think is knowing, which is very unfortunate because we have to fight for all our rights, right? And when you see the negotiation that was going on from all the atrocities that happened, let's say from 1991 or let's say 2013, it is all based on who is going to get the power. You have invited people to fight, and then at the end of the day is who is going to be the power. Who am I going to appoint from the opposition side? And this gives opportunity to many people to start forming their opposition so that they can get also elect, they fight and then they get, selected, and then it will become a tribal thing. So those are the things that we need to avoid at South Sudanese. We need to look into the bigger picture. I understand where has the oil, but so do Equatorial. We have the rare minerals too. Any minerals, for us who live in the West, we know that those belong to the nation, for the building of the nation. And we should pay attention into those.
Thank you.
We are blessed. If you look at, you go and check the South Sudanese minerals, we are so blessed. Blessed with the River Nile, which Egyptian is fighting for their existence. With the River Nile, they cannot exist. Long way from South Sudan. We have the Sud with all the lives there that provide lives, ecosystem and everything, and people live there. And we have uraniums. We have all different kind of golds. I look at Ghana with Gold Coast. Ghana has two things, like two or three things. South Sudan has many things that many other African countries, they have maybe one or two or five, but South Sudan has more. Why is it going to be just concentrated on few individuals who control and held us hostage? We need to, and it's also shameful that we are running after Kawajat or Mundukrat. The same thing that happened during the neo-colonialism. Sometimes I wonder what the PhD holders has in mind. I'm not talking about you or anybody else. I'm talking about our so-called PhD holders in South Sudan. What are they thinking in their mind? Okay, they should have learned the history, the basic history of Africa and how Africa was colonized and how resources from all these nations were controlled by the colonialists. We are lucky. We got our country without a debt. And with all our natural resources untouchable, only part of the oil was touched by the Jalaba. How rich are we? We're so rich and blessed nation.
That's right.
We should just concentrate on that. You can steal the Dahab in Capoeira as individuals' enterprise, but we still have Dahab in different parts of South Sudan. Look at our leaders should look at it that way. This is something big, huge. They can leave and go. And next generation, Ghana has been, they call Gold Coast. They've been mining their gold. Up to now, the gold is not done yet. They're still continuing with the gold. The British took and everything, they still have it. And this is probably a little small part compared to what we have in South Sudan. South Sudan should think bigger, in a big picture, not in just a small or in a travel lens. So
That's true. That's true. I just want to thank you because we've talked a lot of important things, and I think people will benefit a lot from the things we've discussed. So
Thank you.
I want to end by asking you just briefly the last word you want to tell South Sudanese in the context of nepotism, and then after that I'll stop the recording and then we'll speak briefly before we part. Yeah. So what is your final word to South Sudanese?
I want South Sudan to know that nepotism is not good, even though it is not illegal. We have to uphold to the principle of morals and ethics, which actually rooted in our culture, different South Sudanese culture. This is the moral obligation that is given to us, written in our hearts. The good you do to yourself, the good you do to others. So nepotism breed resentment, resentment breed mistrust, mistrust breed violence. It can lead to many things, and we should stay away from that. I did have something that I have, let me see if I can share it here in regard to nepotism here, which we can create a system, we can establish independent commissions in regard to appointments, enforce anti-nepotism rules. We can strengthen our constitution, check and balance, introduce transparency in a system that guide all of us as South Sudanese. We need to educate our people on civic education, emphasizing on equal citizenship over tribal loyalty. We can, this may be like a Muzungu things, create a transparent appointment, a scorecard, and nothing wrong with that. We are living in a digital world. We can do that and publish whatever qualification from the government office, publish it out, let people come in based on merit and also their interest to the job. Merit-based recruitment in all fields, whether education, healthcare, and all that. In case like what happened with we need to decentralize power, which we already talked about, and there is nothing wrong with that. People look at it like Kokora, but it's not. We look at the decentralization of the power. Let each state build their own system, they can still share the natural wealth together and divide it. Still, they build their system, bring hospital to the people in the villages, make road available so that the villagers can produce their stuff and can be able to bring it to Torit, to Juba, to the nearest town. They'll make a living. Let's do that. Let's not go just, okay, we're going to build only the road in Bor or only in Malakal or in Bar el Ghazal and neglect the others. Like right now, in Eastern Equatoria has taken many, many years. There is no proper road there. I did see something that they are having this Neanderthals road coming in, but those are the things that bring in the revenue that is coming from Uganda. Should have given us an example that they are making a lot of money coming from Uganda. Why can't we have it in Ethiopia and the border of Kenya or even Central Africa? Trade. This is how Western country develops, and we prefer their development, but we can do it because we have our resources. We can do it. Let's do it. Let's have peace. Let's avoid fighting each other based on who agree with us or who doesn't agree with us. Please, my appeal to the government of South Sudan, we can criticize you. We know that some people can criticize recklessly, yes. But let's have that freedom of expression, because you're going to learn one and two things from our criticisms. We want the best from you. And when we criticize, it doesn't mean that we are, positioned. We are no longer SPLA or we are no longer whatever, We criticize with love. Let's love one another. Let's think about our generation to come. Let's make the future better for them. They will remember us and we will remember you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.